All right. Welcome, everyone. We're on episode 13 of our podcast here, Unfiltered, three Hillbilly Race fans. We were supposed to have a fourth guest, but he wasn't feeling too good. So I was going to invite Matt from the Lionel Forums. He said he'd like to join us after Phoenix. So, again, anybody who listens, watches, subscribes, wants to provide your feedback, we're open. We're happy to have you to the discussion anytime. So this week we're going to talk about last week's race, or this past weekend's COTA race. We've got some penalty discussions to have, some lawsuit updates to have. So we got a juicy week full of information. So we'll start with the race. We were at COTA. They set for the setup. They went to a shorter course, cut a giant chunk off the track to make it more, more opportunities for passes, more opportunities to come through those crazy hairpin turns, and then um, we had a softer tire to go with it. So
More opportunities for fans to see the
yeah,
cars as
and
well.
more opportunities for the fans to see the cars because it's such a long course. So with that, we'll start with the weekend. You want to talk about the truck race first?
Well, there was no
Or
truck
sorry,
race.
not truck, the Xfinity race. So
Sure.
all right. So we'll start with the Xfinity race.
You're gonna have to lead that discussion because we didn't get to
Yep.
see
All
the
right.
truck
So
race.
so
So
the truck
where were
race, it
they
was
at?
so good it never happened. So moving on to
Who won?
Xfinity.
I bet Hyman won, didn't he?
Yep, he
Yeah,
did.
Bill
He's so
Hyman.
good. Um, so the Xfinity race, uh, not Carson. I don't know why I want to say Carson Quaffle. Uh, Connor Zillage, the phenom, gets out there. He's so much faster than everybody else that he can't wait to run over all his teammates when he makes a mistake and gets in the back and still manages to come back to the front. So he kind of struck a nerve there with Junior. Junior was saying on his podcast this week that it's hard to bitch when you're the winning owner, but at the same time, when you got a bunch of torn up race cars, buy your winning race car, then kind of puts you in a predicament.
It
But
kind of offsets your winnings there a little bit.
yeah, and then on top of it, at the end of the day, the caveat to that he pointed out, which is a good caveat, ultimately, Connor is not a JRM driver. Connor is there as a placeholder and a trackhouse driver. So it's not like he's committed to the JRM program long term. So he can kind of be like a bull in a china shop with those fastest stuff. Whatever happens to Justin, for example, doesn't matter. Or, for him, it's just a stepping stone.
I
Whereas,
guess, I guess that's
that
a clause
teamwork
that
is
clause that JRM should have written in that Trackhouse is paying for all those damages.
right. Like I probably
You
would have put
never
that
know,
in
it might be there.
I probably would have put that in my clause. If you win a race but you wreck three of my cars,
Yeah.
really you get nothing. So, but yeah, he managed to come back. Him and Carson Quaffle had a hell of a race toward the end there. I thought theirs was really good. Clean, tough. I was looking to see like who was going to run out of what, but ultimately Carson's tire gave up on him.
Was it Corey Heim he drove through? Who was in the 24?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he drove through
Yeah.
and
through
just
Hyman.
drove right through him.
Just like he had the
The
fastest.
kid has so
Crazy
much
thing is
talent, and
he had
we
the
thought,
fastest car by like what, a second, I think, in
yeah,
practice over the field
yeah.
in qualifying.
Mhm.
So he didn't have to drive that hard. And he learned that. But
I guess, yeah, who was saying he made a comment? He goes, yeah, I probably should have just gone through and drove at 90%
he
because the
did.
car was, he goes, yeah, he
Yeah.
made the comment that somebody was saying, yeah, he had made the comment that, yeah, I probably could have just drove 90%. The car was so fast that yeah, I was just trying to hurry the process and didn't need to.
Yeah. Now I will say, he did get out. He did own it. Said he messed up. Didn't ignore the question. Just I straight overdrove it. We're gonna have to have some conversation. That was good. That's the way I think you should do it. A lot of the time we get the drivers, they get out and they say, I'm about to see a replay. I don't know what happens there. With technology the way it is today, they shouldn't be able to say, I need to see a replay and dodge the question. Like, damn well what you did. Just own it, man up.
I'm the same here. And
Conversely, yeah, go
that's
ahead.
something that was something that was brought up on wasn't it Denny's podcast where
I think
there's
so.
no reason why with the technology we have today why the media crew's not standing there with tablets or something for them to watch a replay.
Yeah, why are
And
they
you
not
can
holding them?
and you can't tell me that there's not fucking TV screens in these media centers, or not the media centers, the care centers. That's bullshit.
Yep.
But
So
yeah,
the Xfinity race was interesting, especially once that happened, because you really then we're going to get to see, like, you knew he had a good car. You knew he'd probably come back and win depending on how it was. But it definitely made it interesting to watch.
Yeah, when he damaged that right front fender, all I could think of was Larson at Sonoma 2 years ago.
Mhm.
He had the dominant car, and the moment he damaged that fender, it was Jack.
Yep.
And I thought, here we go. He's not going to be able to win. But even with a jacked up fender and blowing smoke every time he hit the brakes, somehow that tire stayed intact. And
Now I will say I think the pressure of this weekend got to him. He's excelled in everything he did, and because he did the same thing here at the trucks when he blew through the fucking turn last year
three
and
times,
ran well and came back but didn't win. But then he went and won at Watkins Glen, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the pressure of it being his Cup debut weekend. I think if he didn't have the Cup debut weekend pressure, he probably doesn't make that mistake that gets
yeah.
him put there in the back. But because he's just got so much overall pressure for the weekend, I think it got the best of him. Um, but like I said, unlike his teammate in Sunday's race, who decided he was going to go balls deep in corner one and drive through Chase Elliott from like 13th, 15th place back all the
He
way, try to drive
started
to the
ninth
lead.
and spun out third.
Yeah. Yeah. So for Ross Chastain to do the same thing and not own it and no comment and walk away was pretty telling because Ross, if I recall, uh, just got done giving Carson Hocevar a piece of his mind about, hey, we shouldn't drive like this, that, and the other, not a week ago at Atlanta. And then turn around a week later and he's got to eat some crow and he's got nothing to say because, yeah, you just stepped on your nuts there, buddy.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yep. So that was hilarious. And obviously
I'm,
the
I,
Chase
I'm
Elliott goon squad was pissed right off the bat. Rightfully so.
nobody heard that conversation though. So maybe Ross pulled him aside and said, "Hey, don't change the damn thing you're doing."
Yep. Yep. Could be. You're right. It may not have been negative at all. Been like, don't be like me. Stay on the throttle. Because everybody
Yeah,
else is telling him, don't let up. Which I mean, I agree. Don't if you to
I
Kevin
said it
Harvick's
about
point,
I said it about Ross when they all started this shit with Ross. That please
well,
don't
there's
change it.
there's nothing that he's done differently. Other the difference with Hocevar, and I can't even say it's that different than like Keselowski and Kyle Busch and the feud they got into for a while, and Edwards and those guys. Hocevar had that tendency to right hook people and wreck them under caution and things like that. But we can rewind back to the nationwide days when Carl and Brad were feuding, or Carl or Brad and Kyle Busch were feuding in those when the drivers could still run the full season. And I think was it IRP or Gateway where he like straight
Gateway.
head on across the wall and all the incoming traffic, and NASCAR didn't do squat
Mm-mm.
safety wise or anything, and they were just letting him have at it. Carl turned Brad around and he literally went backwards and upside down, and he had enough height to clear the damn fence at Atlanta if he had gotten over the right way.
He's lucky to be alive with the way that
Yep.
uh,
Ended on the driver's side.
So I don't
driver
really have a
side
problem with what
out.
Hosafar is doing because the guys that he's not purposefully probably imitating, but his driving mannerisms are all cup champions
Yep.
or nearly
Outside,
champions
outside Ross.
between Edwards, Hamlin, uh Harvick was very brash back in his time. Biffle was very physical. Earnhardt was physical. You know, Keselowski's physical. Logano flips a fucking switch when he gets in the car. Like he's not doing anything different than these guys. He's just not as polished at it yet. So, but I mean, I'm very impressed 3 races in with how he's doing considering again, it's a Spire car and he is running well beyond what the capability of his two teammates seem to be so far. I'm a little surprised with or disappointed with McDowell, truthfully.
McDowell's eighth in points.
I know he's being conservative. I'm just saying, like, you don't see him, you're not really seeing him up front. He's run the first 3 races very smart. He hasn't dug a hole. Absolutely. But I expected him to run stronger based on his road racing background
But
and
not only the road racing, but the friggin' restrictor plate tracks. That I mean,
yeah.
you have a Daytona 500 win.
Well, that
How
and
in
he
the
had
hell, if your teammate is that fast, are you not going out and you have the potential, not just you, but to take your teammates along with you
mhm.
and do something huge at the beginning of this year? Granted, you're eighth in
Yep.
points, but more than likely you're not going to stay there. They missed a giant opportunity in these first 3 races.
Yep. So lap 1, we have the issue with Ross dumping Chase in the Cup race. Looked
We
stupid,
collected
way
the
too early for
87.
that. I mean, I think the whole group, I think that obviously that turn is designed for calamity. But it makes the whole, world's best drivers look like a bunch of idiots when they go in there 5 and 6 wide, 4 rows deep, and just pile into each other. I wish the drivers have control, obviously, but I wish they would just do better because they look ridiculous. Because you don't see that
Formula
happen
One don't have
in
that
Indy
issue.
or Formula One, or yep. So you don't see that happen with other series that go there. It's clearly a NASCAR problem, and they should adjust it, but whatever. So we
Well,
get
with
it.
that dive bomb, you had the 87 collected, the 11.
Yep.
A bunch of cars had their races messed up right off the bat.
Yep. You basically you took your teammate out of the contention who probably had a top 5 car for the day. Probably not winning car, but he had a top 5 car in Zilich in his Cup debut. Right off the bat, you put him in a hole because he got a flat tire and he had to go to the back. You ripped the right front or the right front fender off at 11. You wreck a bunch of other cars or cause damage to them. So yeah, I mean it immediately put a bunch of people in a hole, changed the complexity of that race entirely. And
It been a tie rod on the 9, right? Or
yeah, they said he drove that
oh,
whole first stage with a broken toe link, which I thought
yeah.
was impressive as hell considering the week before with that broken toe link, he took out Brad Keselowski coming through the D oval.
Yeah.
So it
And
just
he was passing cars with it too, which is
yeah.
freaking nuts.
Yeah, they said he had the fastest laps toward the end of the stage, even with that broken thing, which is crazy.
Makes
Makes
you
me
wonder.
wonder how the load on the cars going left and right differs from the pressure of the cars at the speed and at Atlanta through the turns. Obviously, it can't handle it, or maybe it wasn't. It was damaged, but not as damaged. Maybe it wasn't
Yeah.
broken; it was just bent. So, where it was clearly broken in Atlanta, but so we'll progress on. So through the race, we get our next caution, our next major one, which is, or no, they didn't do a caution. They all continued on.
Yeah. The
Where,
next thing would be Austin Cindric.
yep. So Cindric gets pushed wide coming through that turn, coming to the front stretch by Ty Dillon. You see him in race in his in-car thing. He works his way back over onto the asphalt and he's straight. You actually see him then pull right and then hard pull left and slam into the 10 and right hook Ty Dillon into the wall. So everybody on Twitter, Jeff Gluck, those folks said that's going to be interesting. NASCAR's going to have to look at that. That's probably going to be a penalty, maybe even a suspension under the new rules. I was thinking the same thing. I know you were. What about you, Chris?
The decision they made on it absolutely blows my mind because me and Blake talked about it a little bit earlier, but I'd be real interested to look at the speed comparison
Mm-hmm.
As to how fast they were going at Richmond compared to how fast they were going at this racetrack. I'm pretty sure it'd be pretty comparable.
All right.
And the fact that 10 car, all it had to do was bounce off of that wall, come back out into the racetrack, and be sitting driver's side with somebody coming around a blind corner right at them.
Yep. So
I mean, the fact of the leniency on the penalty they ultimately handed down blows my mind, honestly.
so just to refresh everybody's mind who who may have forgotten. So preseason, we got a bunch of rule bulletin updates. NASCAR said if you are suspended for a race, you will lose your championship playoff points accumulated to that point. And basically, from there on, if you qualify for the playoffs, you don't have anything you're carrying over. You're starting flat. So, and they said the only reasons you would get a waiver would be you could get a waiver, but you'd lose all those points. So you're only getting a waiver and not losing points basically if it's a medical requirement. Anything else, you get hurt outside the car, doing other things, you miss a race, for another series, you get suspended, you get a waiver, but sorry, you're SOL. There's got to be some type of penalty there. Good. That's what they should have happened. Then we can rewind to the past 3 race precedents. Chase Elliott hooking Denny Hamlin, Bubba hooking Kyle Larson. Both of those were followed by 1 race suspensions for the penalized driver. And then we have Richmond last year where Austin Dillon hooked not 1 but 2 drivers, and he put Hamlin in the wall and Logano in the wall, and he lost a win and playoff eligibility. Now let's fast forward to Cindric. We've got this new rule. They said you're not the Kyle Larson rule that says if you're suspended or you miss a race, yada yada, you lose these points. So everybody at the beginning of the season was, are these rules going to make everybody think differently? Well, we just found out, nah, not so much.
No.
So Cindric loses his temper because he's had really good cars the last 2 weeks. Doesn't have a lot to show for it. This week, maybe he doesn't have such a good car. His patience is already kind of boiling over. Hooks him, moves on. So today, NASCAR said Cindric gets a 50-point driver fine, a 50,000 monetary fine, but no suspension. So now he doesn't need the waiver. He doesn't lose any accumulated playoff points. I would argue, so I can kind of see it both ways. So first off, after all that, let's stop. Do you think the penalty fits the crime, should be stronger, is sufficient, or not strong, or or too strong? Either one of you.
In the
I-
overall rules, or just the way that it pertains?
The way they
to-
enforced it, the rules, did they stick to their own rules and did they follow the rule, or did they, once again, NASCAR is the story of we're now 3 races in, NASCAR is still the story of the season. Really 4 if you count the clash. 4 races in and officiating is still the story. Not the racing.
Hey, Blake.
I just had that question about it, but go ahead.
So I obviously think he should have been suspended. I do, based off the rule. But what I think happened is NASCAR did not think about road courses when they made the rule. That's
Yeah.
what I think what happened. They did not think about, well, at a road course, you can right hook or left hook somebody, and they're depending on where you're at on the track, there's a wall.
Yeah.
Their rule is right hook. So like we're at a road course, and depending on where you're at on the course, you can right hook somebody, and they're not going to hit a damn thing because of the part of the course. So they probably looked at it and go, shit. And if this is the case, if they're not going to penalize somebody for right hooking on a road course, they need to addend their rule and go, except on road courses, unless under certain circumstances, depending on speed. Like at Watkins Glen, if you right hook somebody at the end of the front straightaway or at the bus stop, that's 150 mile an hour.
Mm-hmm. And you're trying to come to a stop to make those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would not allow you a right or a left hook at the end of the straightaway at one of these road courses, but they need to addend their rule if they're not going to abide by it. Because yes, by the rule, he should have been. We all 3 agree he should have been suspended.
Yeah.
But I think they found something in their rules that they did not think that it would happen at a road course.
Okay. So we talked earlier just a little bit. So here's how I see it. I'm going to give NASCAR partial credit because a 50-point fine, if it stands and Penske doesn't appeal,
They're not appealing.
more points than you can accumulate in a race, base points, because you can only get 40 points max. You can get 10 points for winning for stage points. So there's 50. 10 more would be 60. That's max points. So they're almost the same number of points you could possibly lose by sitting out, but it doesn't carry with it the waiver that has to be required with the suspension that gets you back in and makes you nullify any playoff points earned. So I'm going to give them I'll give them 50, they get like a 50% outcome. They did something and it's pretty strong, but it's not, they didn't follow their own rules, which I knew from the beginning when they announced this, the moment they were going to be put in that box, that they weren't going to, the first time it came across their plate, they were going to miss the pitch.
I think if this happens on an oval, he's suspended. I really do.
I do, but here's my problem with this. So to your point about road courses. All right. So when we say right hook, for anybody who's not, and they watch the video, you got the back of the car is a square. right hook hits the right side or the passenger side and turns him head on into the wall this way, which is what he did. Cindric came back in, turned Ty Dillon into the wall facing the stands with the fans. A left hook, which is what Joe Logano did to Denny Hamlin at Auto Club, sends you hard left. You have more time to scrub off speed, but it's also what broke Denny Hamlin's back in 2013.
Yep.
Both are equally dangerous. To
The
me,
left may
a
be
hook
more dangerous,
is
really.
a hook is a hook. And
Yep.
we've already said, past precedent said, for the last 3 years, in this car specifically, you suspended 2 drivers and you stripped a win and playoff eligibility. Why is this any different?
The rule
Typically states right hook.
No, but they've already set this
It says
precedent that a
I
right
think it's
hook
a
is an automatic
retaliatory,
suspension.
but yep, right hook is automatic, but instead they're not on road courses apparently.
Yeah, it's not written that a right hook is an automatic suspension, but it's kind of like the BS disqualification of Parker Kligerman at Daytona. We've verbally told you, or in a bulletin, we've already set the precedent. If you right hook somebody, we're going to suspend you.
Yeah.
Like it should not matter if it's and the
It
reason
shouldn't matter if it, and honestly, it shouldn't matter if it's a right hook or a left hook. Period.
Exactly.
I mean, we've seen what happened to Denny Hamlin at Auto Club,
Yep.
Fontana, California,
Yep.
whatever the hell you want to call it.
Gordon had happened to him at Vegas when he plowed into the inside wall in the Nicorette car in 09. It hurt his back.
Yep.
From one.
But I mean,
You look at these racetracks. I mean, right hooking somebody at Dover would be horrible, but I think left hooking somebody would be even worse because you're going down the friggin' hill.
And more likely to bounce back up into oncoming traffic. Like
yeah,
either way,
which is exactly my point of what I was getting to. Hitting that wall and coming back up into traffic, that has all the potential, the absolute potential at a road course to come back out into traffic. Look at what happened with David Reagan at Watkins Glen.
Oh yeah, where he bounced like a pinball.
Yes.
Yep. And David Ruderman in the Aaron's car. Yep.
Yeah. Who was it? It was.
Which one's the one? Was it Burton and Gordon were collecting the one where they were coming off the back stretch and it hooked him into the
Sam Hornish.
Yep. Hornish. Yeah. So the point is we have tons of examples where right or left, road course or speedway, it's equally dangerous.
It shouldn't matter. Yeah, it shouldn't matter that it was at a road course and that it was at a lower speed. Somebody's coming off that corner, off of a blind corner, and you're not going to see somebody sitting driver's side.
Yep.
Just sitting right in the middle of the racetrack. You might have a spotter yelling at you, but by the time you come off that corner, I think they didn't just miss the pitch. They didn't even come close to the fucking plate.
No, it was a major whiff. They
missed.
They had a whiff, and so what to me is they had a fastball, and what they did was they grabbed the ball, put it up on the tee for T-ball, and we're like, see, we hit it. That's essentially what they did in my mind. I knew they would mess this up.
It's funny to me, folks, because neither of these guys like baseball.
Yep, which is hilarious. Like, I hate baseball, boring ass sport, but to me, that's the equivalent. Like, they got a real pitch, couldn't hit it, and we're like, hold on. You didn't see this.
Yeah, they set it on the tee and they still hit it behind the fucking umpire though. They didn't even hit it out into the
infield. They still went under it and they went shoop.
God damn.
So I mean, and to anyone's if they're thinking we're too severe, Dale Jr. said he should be suspended. Denny Hamlin said he should be suspended.
Well, Denny beat around the bush. Denny beat around the bush pretty good, I think.
Yeah, they didn't want to do it if they didn't have to. Like, they don't want to see him suspended because they're friends with him, but they cited the same thing we're citing. Past precedent shows we've already made what the decision should be, and NASCAR once again yielded on inconsistency. So like I said, I'll give them credit for partially penalizing them, but you now open the door on your new rule, which is the more important part. You took the teeth out of your new rule because you said if you do this and you get suspended, it's going to hurt you. So the first opportunity they had to enforce it, to set the precedent and say, don't test us, we came out with this new rule, they folded like a house of cards. So now
everybody's going to test
what is acceptable. It opens the question of what is acceptable. Okay, if it's at a road course and I hook you and we're under 120 and the telemetry says it's under 120, is that acceptable? I can still get a concussion from that. I can still end my racing career right there. I could break my arm. Yep. you can get damaged in these cars. We've already seen at lower speeds, and they've numerously talked about the impacts to their spine, their head, and everything, just because of the rigidity of the cars, because of the bottom underpin plates and stuff, and how it holds the structure of the car. Like at some point, NASCAR is going to have to, or the drivers are, I would think would have to come up and say, this can't be tolerated anymore because now you've opened that box back up that you tried to close. So where's the line? Okay, I can hook you at a road course. You just said I can, and there's a financial penalty. But how fast am I allowed to run and hook you in a road course before it's a penalty threshold? Is it going through one of the slow corners? Like if I go up there where Ross was, for example, if Ross is chasing Chase Elliott and they're supposed to turn left, and Ross comes up there and right hooks him instead and turns him the opposite direction, just deliberately spins him out towards the wall in the dirt, well, that's a right hook, but they're going to be going maybe 40, 50 mile an hour. Is that acceptable rate in race behavior because it's deliberate?
Yeah, they go to turn left.
And all you got to be doing is sitting on that right rear quarter panel, and they're going to go straight and miss the apex of the corner.
And you can't say they don't know or it's not deliberate because they're all professional race car drivers. They know what the car is going to do when they put the car in certain situations. It's not like they have no knowledge of this. We've now got 4 years of this car under our belt to know exactly what happens when you take and push on this part of the car, take air off this part of the car. So, any more thoughts on that before we finish the rest of the race?
No.
No.
I thought it was neat that Bubba Wallace won the stage on a road course when nobody thought he was any good at him.
Yep, he's come a long way. He's done a lot of prep and work. Honestly, I think their car was good enough. They didn't have to do the strategy they did. That's the only thing I'll say I was disappointed about his.
Well,
he took themselves out of contention for the win by running their strategy where SVG and Kyle Busch's strategy and Christopher Bell's strategy, they were still able to get. My point is, he was fast enough to get stage points by following their strategy and still would have been in contention for the win, just like the other guys. But for Bubba, it was a major improvement day because we can go back to the Roval when they first started racing at the Roval, and here comes the 43 car, and bam, it's airborne,
destroyed,
just destroyed that car.
So
this is a big step.
Well, they did that for kind of to pick up some points because earlier on in that stage, they cut 3, 4, 5, one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I was listening to, I think it was Morning Drive with Mike Bagley and Pete Pistone. So when they first got there this past weekend, they had in 3, 4, 5, I believe, and 6, they had 400 pounds worth of tires.
Yeah. Yep.
To make sure that they didn't cut the corners, and this is where this is where I'm kind of upset with Hendrick in general. William Byron, Kyle Larson, and I think Chase Elliott as well. They all went to the NASCAR hauler and said, "Hey, if somebody gets pushed into this or somebody makes a mistake, that's not just a small boo-boo. That is a day ender." In my eyes, okay, don't fucking hit it.
Yeah.
Their main thing was, well, what if we get pushed into it?
Yeah.
What if we get pushed into it? Okay, whatever. That's racing. That's racing. So what?
Hey, what do you mean?
So now,
like you did Cindric in Atlanta.
Well, so like to your point about if you get pushed into it and those barriers, the barriers, like they've done this at Sonoma around, what is it, turn 11 when they come to the front stretch for years. And they would slowly creep the tires in and in and in. I understand what they're saying. You don't want to come through there through the S's fast and potentially clip one of those in your front and end your day. And it could bounce you back into traffic. So there is some danger to it. But let's take a step back and just road racing in general. When they do this crap at Watkins Glen, when they do it when the F1 cars do it at Monaco, they don't go up there and be like, I don't really like where that wall is. Could you just move it back a little more? It's going to be detrimental. How about you just stick to the damn racing line?
Here's the thing. When
Follow
F1
the track
races
layout.
at that track, guess what? They don't have this shit. If they have one tire over that damn curb looking area, there is no curb because we took it out because we're sissified.
Because they were getting airborne. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, if you don't want to get airborne, let's try to stay on the fucking track.
Yep.
Possibly.
Don't
I
run
don't
over it.
know.
Don't run over it.
So, so that I wanted to get that out of the way because
Yeah.
my driver was part of getting rid of this stupid
Well, yeah,
shit.
your guy, Larson, was
And
running.
then it ended up screwing him.
Yep.
I wanted to get to this. They screwed Bubba, Larson, and I think McDowell got hit with this penalty too. I can't remember. There was three cars that got hit with it
Yep.
that I know about. And so you got all your tire. The rule was if you got all four tires below the corner,
Yeah.
you could
On
do
the other side of
you
the
could
line.
do
Yeah.
98% of your car could go under it was fine. But if you got 100 of it under, you're bad. So you got a millisecond advantage by doing
Mhm.
that. But we're going to stop you on the track in this access area in turn 13. You have to come to a complete stop and then roll out of this corner on this blue painted
Yep.
line. And in Bubba's case, he was running third when he did it, or second or third, and he fell to ninth. So you're telling me that I made a gain of a millisecond, essentially. Am I
Yeah,
right?
like
Am I
point
right
zero
on that?
five or whatever. Yep.
We're talking a hunt hair, and and we're gonna bring you back 9 spots. Really?
Yep.
And when I
Because
know when Larson did it, Larson was running seventh and fell back to 19th.
Well, the bigger
because
issue is
Over a quarter of a second, if that,
it's better
advantage.
than what
Not
they
even a
used
quarter.
to. It's
yeah.
better than sending down pit road like they used to.
It's
The
all
stop and
stupid
go
though.
penalty puts you. Yeah, I know it
Just,
is.
just put the
But
curbing back or keep the damn things there.
I don't even say put the curbing back. Put up the fucking Armco barriers. Just like those guys at Watkins Glen, they stay away from those Armco barriers because guess what? They fucking hurt and they destroy
Yeah,
your car. You put the
Yep.
Armco barriers there, then they're not going to fucking drive right there.
yeah,
Yep.
but
It's
I
well,
just
the bigger
I don't
issue
like it.
with your point, Blake, the bigger issue is even the drivers this weekend on the radio throughout the stages weren't sure where the track limits were. They got them
Yeah,
both
when
wrong. They
Larson
said
got
one
hit for
thing.
three, he's like, I didn't think we were doing three. I thought it was just 4 and 5.
Yep. Then Kyle Busch is following SVG like, is that not track limits violation? I watched.
What?
So
Yeah, what happened
Christopher
in
Bell
six?
won the race and he violated track limits and they didn't say anything. He went through the S's and he completely missed one of the S's. And they didn't say a thing when he was catching Kyle Busch for it. They didn't touch him. And again, NASCAR chose not to interfere with the show. Not untypical for them, but the point stands that this track was designed for F1 cars and their nimbleness. And also F1 cars have a technology in them that when you go off course and you cut course, it cuts your throttle automatically. It will slow you. The cars have a technology in them that if you cut course, yeah,
No,
at some of their tracks they have GPS stuff. Like if you violate the racing
they
law,
have GPS, and then they will call it. You get 3 track limit violations. Once you
right?
get the fourth, you will get a penalty.
But they can. My point is they can send a signal to the
Yes.
car to tamper it down. Well, NASCAR doesn't have that. So if you're going to take yourself and put yourself in the officiating position to make a call or not, the first problem is even the drivers weren't sure what areas of the track were under track limits or not. I feel like if you're not going to enforce track limits, there shouldn't be any at all. If you're going to enforce track limits, you have to do it everywhere. You can't be like, well, I'm not going to enforce it on 6A and 6B, where you come and swing out of that big wide turn, and now you're 5 lanes outside the racetrack surface in that paved area for runoff, 3 wide. That is not the racetrack. That's wrecking area.
I
That's
heard Chase
out there.
Briscoe this morning. Chase Briscoe on NASCAR radio said the moment they told me that they weren't policing it, I went as far out as I could. He said I almost touched the dirt. He said it's like
Yep.
5 or 6 lanes
Hmm.
outside. Like, are you? Like
Because
how
the
is that
more I can widen
okay?
the arc of that corner, the more and make the apex, the more speed I don't have to scrub off. So like there's entire sections of that corner that never saw a tire all day, other than on a
Mhm.
restart lap where they were bunched together. Because by the time they get strung out there, everybody follows everybody as far as they can so they can retain as much speed as
Well,
possible.
Denny saw that part of the pavement
That's
later in the
true.
race because there's dirt all over it.
Right. Yeah.
And guess what? He put Austin Dillon out where what should be out there where they were running.
Yep.
Everybody hated the gravel traps, but I'm sorry. You either put the Armco barriers back up or put gravel traps in.
Yep.
They'll stay
Yep.
out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of goes ahead a little bit, but like so at the end of coming to the end of stage 2, Larson had just had the issue we're just talking about where I think it was about 10 laps prior he had an issue where he cut the corner,
Yep.
fell back to 20th, and I was screaming at the TV, just stay out, just stay out. No, Cliff don't want to do that. So he comes down pit road. They get tires and they're hung up on the left rear. They can't get the left rear on. Goes back out and a fucking right front tire falls off.
Yep. As soon as
2 lap
he had
penalty.
the violation and he got back there, I'm like, oh, Blake's gonna be mad. Then when they had the hang up on the rear, I'm like, well, they'll be back there. I guess it'll be okay. And then boom, all of a sudden, here we go. They lose a tire, and Chris and I were saying the same. We were all saying the same thing in chat. If you're gonna be in the pits that fucking long, why
Just
wouldn't
check
you
all the
make
damn
sure all your
tires.
shit is tight? Like you're already in the back. What the hell are you doing?
I don't understand. At a road course, you need all the fuel you can, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why are we? It takes longer to fuel the car than it does to change tires. We all know this. With this new
Yep.
car, one single lug.
Hurry. Why take
Why
the
are you in
chance?
such a hurry? Look as you're getting done with the tire. Look at there's a little red dot that pops up. It's red, right, Alan?
Mm-hmm.
Red or
Yeah.
yellow or something.
Yeah,
Look for
it's
the little
different for
red
Yeah, it's
each
dot.
red.
If
each
you don't see it, put your gun
Mhm.
back in, and oh, there it is. I'm gonna go
Yep.
back to the other side now. It
Yep.
makes no damn sense to me. I get it. I honestly get it on a mile and a half or whatever when when you're not taking a full load.
Yep.
But you need your entire all the fuel you can on a road course to make the strategy work, and you're gonna fuck around and you think you're gonna lose your left rear, but no, there goes the right front.
Yep. So let's see. We get past that. The next caution you mentioned, Denny gets in the gravel, or
That was
somebody got in the gravel before Denny.
the
Denny,
first caution was the 87 and the 99.
right. So the Trackhouse guys finish each other off. Suarez is driving over his head. He's feeling the pressure, makes a mistake, and ironically enough, takes out the guy who's probably going to take his seat. Then
Yep.
we
And
get
he had overcome a flat tire. He was all the way up to 14th.
yep,
I
like
think I think he was about to do something real special.
Zilich, I think was
And
going to finish in the top five still, even being back
yep,
there. He was that good. I'm looking forward to the next one to see what happens with hopefully a less chaotic race for him.
yep,
Now that he's got that,
I agree.
initial pressure off his shoulders. Okay.
Beautiful car, beautiful
Yep.
car.
That's another, we'll get to that. But so we have that caution. All right, we get down to the last, 14 laps, which they run a bunch under caution. So we get down to like the last 11 essentially after
Well, so then
Denny
you
and
had the Denny
yeah, the
wreck,
Denny. So after the Suarez
and that
caution,
put
then we get the Denny
Larson
caution,
back
which
on
is
the
the
lead
last
lap.
caution. So we get down to the last 11 laps. For the first time all day, the racing was actually really good, at least on what you see on TV. I'm sure there was good racing all over. Fox does a bad job of showing all the
Terrible
racing.
job.
But for what the TV product was, the last 11 laps were phenomenal because you had four people within a second of each other continuously battling for it between Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell, um, not SVG, Byron, and who was the last one?
Reddick.
And Reddick. Okay. So you had,
Christopher's
and
pick.
they raced hard. They raced, I'm not going to say clean, but they weren't dirty. Like, Bell roughed up Kyle Busch to get by him, but he
Yeah, he
didn't
broke
do
his
him dirty.
toe link.
Yeah, but he didn't do him dirty like he did the year before. He learned from that. Byron, I think, pussied out, didn't want to use the bumper because he
Oh
said
yeah,
Bell didn't do it enough to justify getting physical, which to me, again, is why Bell is constantly a threat for the championship in the Final Four every year. And Byron, while he makes it there, is really almost never a threat because he doesn't have that killer instinct. It's just not who he is. And
no,
he'll
he'd
go
rather let
far,
people
but
win.
he's not going to win a championship like that. You know,
He's waiting for someone to hand it to him.
Yep. The
Looks
only
like
nice guy in
all
the whole
happened
history of the
in-
damn sport, whoever raced clean and nice to win a championship, was Martin Truex. And that's because that car was so fucking cheated up that nobody could catch it. You know,
Yep.
where he ran, all 395 laps of the Coke 600, for example, and then they purposely crushed the back end of that car every week to make sure NASCAR couldn't find shit. So, everybody else, in order to get there, knows at some point you have to take. And Byron hasn't taken anything ever, other than the free gifts that Larson has given him, as Blake likes to point out continuously, and I do too, that, oh, I was ninth or 10th or 12th in line and the whole front of the field wrecked. I'm the best driver ever, Daytona 500 champion 2 years in a row. No, no,
Mhm.
sir. Sorry. What move did you make? Oh, you just drove straight. You didn't wreck.
Did anybody ever
See any of those interviews from his media tour afterwards?
No, I heard one or two of them on the
No.
radio. And Dale Jr. bitched out about when it was interview time. He said, "Oh, I didn't want to rain on his parade," and ask him about the criticism and everything. Which, again, not a surprise. He's friends with Mr. H, and Byron came through his program. Dale doesn't want to be that bad guy. He wants to be the driver's friends, so he's not going to be super
but
critical. Basically,
I'm assuming nobody did though.
yeah, I don't think anybody really did. I don't think it's unfair questions. Like, it's not like he could go on there and say, I made this move and I saw it's not like when Denny Hamlin won the 500 and Ryan Newman ended up in the hospital where Denny had lost the position coming on the backstretch, but he knew he was going to have another opportunity and with the side draft and everything and managed to win it. Denny, with his racing prowess and being in those situations, made the moves with the car to execute the win. Byron, that was pure freaking luck. Yes, you have to be still at the end of the race available, but when the top 10 or 15 people wreck and you come shooting out, that's not much skill so much as you just happen to not be one of the pins in the bowling alley that got smacked by the ball on that throw.
Yeah,
So
he was what?
Seventh or ninth when that wreck
I think he was
started.
ninth, but
He was nice.
either way, you were clearly not going to win that race from ninth. Until those guys wrecked, you were already done with it for the day. You weren't even that dominant a car for the day. You raced okay, definitely not the speed they had last year. So
Wasn't that
anyway,
the only
the whole
lap
thing's
he
not
led?
about him, other than the fact that obviously he had several times he could have
No.
gotten more physical with the 20, and he just didn't.
Well, yeah. I mean, he missed. I mean, even that last corner, he didn't
Yeah.
even have to take Bell out. All he had to do was touch him going into that corner and at least give himself a shot to drag race him to the start finish line.
Yeah,
He
everybody's
didn't even. He
tires.
didn't even.
He would have
He
had to
Good.
fight him then, and that's not gonna happen.
He would have what?
He would have had to fight him. He ain't gonna do that.
No.
Christopher Bell would have got out and whooped his ass.
Yeah.
Uh,
So overall, what'd you think of the race? Like, let's start with the racing. What'd you think of the racing?
Honestly, the track limits ruined the whole race for me. I mean,
Agreed.
we watch on boards and stuff like that, and you're watching like if you're right behind somebody and they go off, you're following them. You know, you're following them through. Off the course. Like, there's no way to really, try to stay on the track.
Yeah.
And this track limits ruined the race for me. I mean, yeah, the end was good. It was cool. It was kind of suspenseful. Same for the Xfinity race the day before. I mean, the short course is better than the long course. I would give them that. They did great. If they put curbing back in or figure something out to keep their asses on the damn track, and I will enjoy it more. I will. I just can't get into it when I'm seeing them. Here's a red and white stripe, but the car is all the way over top of it.
Or
It
2 miles
ruins it for
outside of
me.
it and
Yeah,
not anywhere near
or
the
turn
actual
six,
lines they're
turn
supposed
six,
to.
we're all the way in the dirt. That's 20 feet off track.
Yeah.
I just can't get into it when you're always having to wonder, did that? I just saw that car go off track. I want to see what NASCAR says, and that they don't do anything about it. It ruined the whole race for me.
I agree. That was where when I would get invested in it, I would get frustrated, especially in those final 10 laps when Bell cut it a couple times and Byron cut it a couple
So where
times.
did you see him cut? Do you know what turn it was?
It was through the S's. I think it was right through the center of the
Three or
S's. And
four?
there were supposed to be limits in the S's. And he basically went straight from one turn to the other and didn't make the inner turn. He like came
Yeah,
and made the
you
attempt.
Send a picture in the chat.
Yep. I was like, what the hell?
I guess I missed that.
But I was looking at it as soon as it happened. I'm like, he just cut the S's and there's no penalty, and they just let him keep going. And then he ran Kyle Busch down and was able to pass him. If he had taken a penalty, Kyle Busch wins that race.
Yep.
Because then Bell doesn't get too physical with him where he breaks a toe link. So like,
Yeah, I think
I'm
Kyle
waiting
Busch wins this race if Denny Hamlin doesn't wreck Kyle Busch's teammate.
as a as a COTA race. I'm gonna say of the COTA races, it's the best of the COTA races we've had.
No, the rain race was so
Downright
much better.
awful. In terms of yeah, you're not wrong.
I can't see anything. I know it's awesome.
It's but if I compare this to Watkins Glen and Sonoma, or even Chicago, where there are track limits, you run into that
Give me
fucking concrete
Sonoma all day
wall.
long.
Yep, then it's not a good race in my mind. Now, and I actually took the time to break it down. So like I feel like okay, so the race was 95 laps. Other than the portion of the first stage where SVG took his time and then passed Bush and then Bush passed him back, and like you were seeing tire wear and that skill come to, play. There was nothing really amazing in the first two stages other than when those chaotic cautions happened, either, for Suarez and Connor, unfortunately, or for Cindric. There wasn't really anything that got your attention. The last 16% of the race, we'll say, 95 laps, 11 of it was really good, but I don't think that's justification to say it was a good race. I think there was a good battle at the end. I don't think the race at all was all that good when you compare it to all the other road courses we go out there and run. It wasn't as good as the Roval race. It wasn't as good as going to Sonoma or Watkins Glen. We have other, and it's a purpose-bred road course, so I can't even say we should go to it another place because it's not a real road course. It is a real road course, but to your point, we're gonna go to a real road course, we should follow the design of the road course. It was designed for those cars, those F1 cars. We know that going in. If we don't race well there, we shouldn't modify the track to make it look like we belong there.
Here's the thing.
To me,
F1
that's
is
like taking
going.
Indy and saying, well, our cars don't run well at Indy, but we want to say we run at Indianapolis really well. So let's keep it on the oval, not the road course, but we're going to make it a mile shorter, or we're going to bank the turns. You're no longer there. It's no different than the Indy road course. To me, that's not the same prestige. If you want to go there and claim the COTA prestige, which I don't think is prestigious, but if you want to go there and claim it and run it, then you should run it as designed. If you're not going to run it as designed, don't run it at all. Go somewhere else. You were going to say something. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I almost forgot. The F1 cars are going almost double the speed of Cup cars, and they can stay inside the lines.
Exactly.
They can go inside the lines, so can you. Stop going to the damn holler and going, oh, I don't know about that. Just run the damn track, and you won't have that problem.
Yep. They
Maybe
mentioned
it
the same
causes
stuff
another
on.
caution or two. Okay. Well, that would do, that what that would do, that would make everybody else cautious through there
Yep. It
because
would
you
slow
need to
them
be
down and go
cautious through
past them.
there.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh my God. Heaven forbid you have to do your damn job and stay on the track.
So
So,
last thing I want to
some,
talk about with the race itself, like in the totality, other than unless there's something else you want to talk about,
I do.
at least I do,
Did
is
you want my take on that?
No.
go ahead.
We forgot you were here.
You were here. Nope, nope.
I think that race would have been amazing if you got rid of the damn stages and let the teams play out their own friggin' strategies again, because the softer tires at that racetrack, look at what Chase Elliott did at the end of that race.
Oh
We
yeah,
didn't
he
get
came
to
and got
see it.
tires. Yep.
We didn't get to see it, but that would have been an amazing old school road course race if they would have taken the stupid ass stages out.
Yep.
Restarted with 20 laps to go in 22nd place and drove to fourth. When's the last time you can say we've seen that? Honestly, seen that?
No, I mean
Kyle Busch at Watkins Glen and 6 years ago, 7.
yep. When he won the championship. Yep.
Is that what it was?
Yeah,
He
when he won.
restarted in the very back and had new tires and he got third or fourth?
Yeah, with his rehealing foot. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I agree. That's my number one problem with road courses in general because they're so short in terms of total laps compared to all the other races we have. Just take the stage. They should do the same thing at the plate races for the record. Take
Yeah.
out the stage.
Well, they tried it last year, and all these damn, so-called race fans cried
Well, two
about
years
it.
ago they did it when McDowell won at Indy. But if they when they ran the Indy Oval last year, but I
And look
think
what happened at the end of that race. Chase Elliott came in and got tires and almost chased him
yep.
down for the win.
But the big point being
But it was
they
just
have the
almost.
soft tires this year, and we've seen the soft tires are better. We've improved the road racing. I don't think you need stage brakes. I think you would get a better product.
Yep.
You could still award the stage points, but it would put the strategy way back up in the air, and you would get a lot more options, more strategies throughout the race, make it more compelling. So I 1000% agree with you on that, Chris.
Yeah.
To the point of stage brakes, we had two stage breaks, each one totaling 15 minutes of airtime. So 30 minutes of commercials, and it consumed 4 laps per stage break, which is 8 laps out of 95. So almost a tenth of the race regulation laps were run under caution for no actual safety conditions. It was just so we could run commercials. We had another 8 laps under caution for those two caution events for a total of 16 laps. So we had 17% of this race run under caution and over an hour of commercials in those 4 periods. That's insane to me. And we didn't even and to add that and then not have the battle, like you said, to not be able to see Chase Elliott coming up through, to see the pass, not see the pass that Bell made on Bush because they're like, here's our behind the grandstand camera. Hey, check out this guy's ass in the blue jeans.
Yeah,
Pass is
they were
made for the
talking
lead.
about that.
You know,
What show was talking about that?
you
It was
know,
a door bumper
Speed.
clear. They
yeah,
said that had to have been an accident.
like, did the
Had to have
guy
been
fall
an
off the stands or like what?
accident.
But
Yeah,
either way, just the coverage they had all day was towards the front, and they didn't cover enough through the
that's every
pitches.
coverage.
It's
Every
been
time,
like that for a while now.
And at an
20
oval,
years.
it's a little bit better because there's more cars in the picture. But at this track at road
No, there's not.
courses,
They zoom in on everything. What are you talking about?
you mean we don't want to show the empty stands? Come on now. So they did say that the attendance was down, even though they tried to play it like it was up. Um, you mentioned before we started, Cota's final race under the current contract. I don't think they should go back, but if they do go back, if they don't go back, I guess, where would you take it? Like, I'd like to see him go back to Road
Well,
America personally for the Cup.
well. So here's the thing. Right now, it is SMI. It's a
Yep.
SMI date. That race got their race from the first, what at the time was Texas's spring race.
Yep.
So Texas got the All Star race and the playoff race. Now we all know Texas is not in the playoffs anymore. They are in the spring. So
And they don't have the All-Star race.
they don't have the All Star race. So my guess is Marcus wants to take it back to his own track. He's probably not going to get. I don't understand how you can get much money out of just promoting a race for another entity personally, but I'm not in that game, obviously. Obviously, I'm in Kentucky, and I think you're using a date for a track that you don't own. Kentucky is the only race track that you own that doesn't have a date. Uh, the
They don't
race
own
needs to come to
Chicagoland?
Kentucky.
Is that ISC?
That's ISC.
Okay.
So that's that race was taken and went to Road America and then went to
Chicago.
Chicago. So, but
Chicago went to Chicago.
if if NASCAR wants COTA to have a race, sure, go ahead, but use one of your tracks, not SMI's.
Yeah, I would if they don't go back there, obviously my number one choice, I'm with you. I want to see him go back to Kentucky. This car performs at its best on 1.5 mile tracks, 2 mile tracks, like Indy was phenomenal at Auto Club, and they stupidly sold it, tore it up, have no intentions right now, as we can see, of building anything else. So they're constantly complaining about not being in that market, but they're not in a damn hurry to put another track out there either.
Well, so beyond it racing good on a mile and a half, Kentucky got repaved in 17.
Yep.
And so it had like 3 races on it or 4, something
Yeah.
like that. But it's been sitting there, just sitting and it's been hot in the
Yeah,
summer
it's
here.
been
It has
aged.
been baking. It has been baking in that sun so for 7 years. So that ought to be some amazing racing. We just got to go there to see what it'll do.
Yep.
And
And if they
we
could go
have the
there,
best races we have on mile and a half. So why
yeah.
would you not go back?
Yeah, and if they couldn't go back there and they NASCAR absolutely had to, like I would say, like if NASCAR, if we absolutely had to have a road course and they had to go somewhere else, but Kentucky still wanted a date, NASCAR could take that date from one of its
Mhm.
and
Talladega.
yeah, a Talladega race
I would love.
or
I'd be on board. I know all the so-called fans would like it, but Talladega, Daytona, Atlanta. Well, Atlanta's I kind of like it because it's like old Daytona.
yeah,
I'm starting to come around on it, but Talladega, Daytona is not real racing. So
Atlanta's coming back. Talladega and Daytona are never going to change.
no, not
no, they're
unless they
not.
change the package,
Yeah.
and they don't seem to want to.
Nope.
So
I
No, that's
do.
what the fans don't want it, man.
I do have one last thing on COTA,
yep,
if we
okay,
can. So we talk about the Xfinity fastest lap. We've talked about it a couple times.
yep,
This was the first time. It's only been third race, but this is the first time where a car that has been mired in the back has said, "Okay, we're bad on points today, but let's go for the fastest lap." That's what happened this week. Larson was running 21st, got
yep,
spun out by Ryan Preece. Took him a second to get the car fired back up. He had nothing but empty track in front of him. Cliff said, "Well, our tires are fresh. You didn't spin that hard. Let's go after the fastest lap, get that point." And in 2 laps, he beat it. Nobody else came anywhere close to him. So he got an extra point by doing that. So it's come, it has helped the team out already. And this happens in F1 sometimes where a team's not doing good, they're not in the points.
mhm,
They come down pit lane, they box and they get 4 fresh tires on low fuel and they go for it. And
yeah.
sometimes it works.
Put on a set of softs or yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
Think about what something like that would have done. And I know, I know Blake doesn't listen to it. I think Alan, you do to an extent. This would have made a huge difference for Corey LaJoy last year. I mean, I don't think it would have propelled him into the chase by any means, but a couple races, I think 2, if not 3 races, he had issues in last year. He went through, went in, fixed the car. They came back out and they set the fastest lap of the race 3 different times, if I'm not mistaken. At
oh
least 3
really?
different times last year. Yep.
yeah,
But it didn't matter last year.
yep. And so
But
to
it
that
did.
point, we talked
But it
about it.
did. It did help him with the one reason why they were doing it is because it helped their
Qualifying.
uh, yeah, it helped qualifying for the next week.
So I agree. Like when they announced this, Xfinity announced this initiative, what we're talking about, like this is exactly what I had in mind was like, okay, if you're having a bad day and you've only accumulated a couple points or whatever, uh, you know, and you can't really improve, like why not go out there and get it and add these up? The only thing they didn't do with it correctly in my mind, and I don't think NASCAR wanted them to do it. Maybe they pitched it, we don't know. I would have preferred it be a playoff point,
Yep.
you
I,
know,
I agree.
championship playoff point, because then I think you get a lot more teams trying to do it. Like, okay, I finished eighth in stage two, seventh in stage three or stage one, and we're running the regular race, and I'm back here in 20th. I feel like I can probably get back there. I'm going to go off sequence next pit strategy, and I'm going to try and set the fastest lap and get that extra playoff point because that would give you now another playoff point to go chase. I think it
Yep.
would just incentivize that a little bit more. But yeah. So
And I also think they're really missing the ball. I don't think that we necessarily need to go back to, especially with the way this new package is on this car. I don't think we need to go back to a point for leading a lap, but I would agree. I would say the same thing about a championship point for whoever leads the most laps
yep,
Yeah,
because
I agree.
we definitely need.
you're gonna make that push to make those guys go up there and want to lead.
Yep, I agree. 100%. Like I Dave Moody shut me down. He's like, you don't think they're incentivized enough? I'm like, that wasn't the question. The question is we had these incentives before, and when we got to the stages We got rid of, because now if I don't leave the most laps, but I'm finishing in the top 10, I'm still getting something. My point is, I want to be the best car at halfway. I want to be the best car in initial speed. I want to win the race. I want to take, if I had all the perfect points, you should get a playoff point for winning the pole. You should get a playoff point for the fastest lap in the race. You should get a playoff point for leading the most laps in the race. And you should get a playoff point for leading a lap. If you did those, that's 4 bonus points right there alone, separate from all those for the weekend to fight for. And they would fight for them because we see people every year miss the cut by a point, 2 points, 3 points. Well, if I go out
Oh,
there
yeah.
and if I lead the most laps all year, Larson, prime example, led, 5,000 something laps last year, whatever it was. Okay. He led, 150 in this one, 200 in this one, 300 in this one. Okay. Point, 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 point. Guess what? He's in the final four. Do the same thing for Denny. Point, 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 point. Where he did it a bunch, or Blaney, or it just gives them something more to fight for. Where if, yeah, I get a championship point if I get a stage win, but I'm still going to get 9 points if I finish second. Is it worth? How much do I want to push it for that 1 point? Oh, but if I'm up there and I'm doing it consecutively, now I'm getting 2 points or 3 points because there's the 2 stages, the most laps led, the other stuff. So I'm with you. I don't think we need to go back to everything being the old way, but the more you incentivize them, the better racing we're going to get, period.
And the main point is if you and they're all talking about, well, if you win the stage, you get 10 points and a playoff points. Well, there's races where you pit early so that you can stay in sequence to try to win the race. Well,
Yep.
guess what happens when you do that? You don't finish in the top 10.
Mm-mm.
You can lead the most laps and not get one damn stage point
Yep.
because
You
you're
get
going for
wrecked
the
before the
win.
conclusion of the race
Tell
and
me
walk with nothing.
the incentivization of that.
Yeah.
You got to pick between stage points and winning a race. I think I'm going to go for the win.
Yep.
But
So
if you don't get that win, that whole day is a wash. Or it's not even a
Yeah.
wash. You're at a loss.
Yeah.
You're at a
A
loss
loss.
because you went for the win.
and that happens a lot, especially at the road courses,
Yeah.
because of the flipping of the stages and the playoff
Yep.
and the drafting races. So,
Mhm.
all right. So we got two big topics left. We've talked about the penalty and the other stuff. So, on other penalty news, JGR and the 19 car got their penalty rescinded. They won their appeal. Essentially, they showed how the spoiler was applied to the body is what elongated the bolts, and it wasn't anything nefarious. It's how it was applied. I personally still don't understand it. I don't think they provided enough technical stuff because how did yours get that way, but the other, 39 cars or whatever didn't? Everybody's supposed to be applying it the same way. So what did you do different that made yours elongate? I mean, good on them for winning because lately nobody's won appeals. But
And
and
how
then
ironic that the car that had the elongated deal is a
yep,
entire car length faster during cold qualifying than
yep.
anybody else. How ironic is this?
But that definitely saved their season because I mean there was no way they were going to make the playoffs without having to
Well,
win.
they're going to save their season this weekend when they win.
We'll get there. I mean, we'll get there. So, um, but it put them. The point is, it brought them up to 14th in the points. So
Yeah.
now they're inside the top 16, and they can kind of change their strategy. Maybe they had looking at potentially losing the penalty, which is more often than not what was going to happen. They
Where
don't
did
necessarily
where
swing for
was
the fence.
Cindric before he dropped?
Where was he before he dropped?
Yeah.
Where was Cindric? He was in the top. No, because he got wrecked. I have to go look. I'll have to go look. But his also the one thing with his didn't include any owner points. They didn't mention the owner points for Cindric's, by the way.
Well, that would make sense.
So it's driver only. So um
I think the whole thing is just is weird. How
mm,
it's obviously something was nefarious going on because of the speed that they had. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
all right, so we got one more, and then we'll get into our predictions for this weekend. So NASCAR has decided, back to the lawsuit, to countersue. And they decided they want to countersue 2311 FRM, and they decided to name Kurtis Polk, who is Michael Jordan's advisor, because I don't think they wanted the image of saying they were suing Michael Jordan. Outright, that's probably not a good headline for them. Even if they win, it they still lose. You're talking about one of the most prominent sports figures on the planet, period. So, in their terms, they mentioned that they didn't feel like that NASCAR or that the teams were truly invested in building the sport and being here for the long term. I find that comical. Clearly, Denny Hamlin does too.
I thought
Because
that was fun.
they literally just built a brand new state-of-the-art facility in airspeed. They were the number one contributor to the Netflix show, and he mentioned that in the lawsuit litigation leading into it before all this. And they've been approached again because of the association with Michael Jordan and everything. And Denny is one of the, Denny's got a podcast. He's definitely one of the top fan accessible team owners by a country mile now that he's partnered with Dale Jr. for this podcast and provides that insight as both a driver and an owner and is constantly talking about it from both sides. So if you're not interested in building the sport for their argument, why do I have a show where I talk about the sport and I talk about ways to improve it on a weekly basis? Why did I spend $30 million on a low end to buy two charters, and now I'm partnering with the Herbst group for the third one? Why did I build I don't know how many, well, it's probably a $10 million building plus for state of the art to build my own
Easily.
facility, but that's not to grow the sport. What do I do with all that shit if I'm not growing the sport? Now I got just a really nice museum. Like, I don't understand their argument. Go ahead, Chris. I know you said you looked like you had something you wanted to say.
Are you sure that them going after Kurtis Polk that he's not representing Chase Elliott?
I mean,
The one that's openly said he really doesn't even care if he has anything to do with his fans.
true.
That's
mean,
okay. He'll win most
it just
popular
makes
driver again.
yeah. You go on the Dale Jr. download, the most listened to podcast in motorsports. Say that you really don't want anything to do with your fans. You have no interest in doing anything with your fans. You do everything you can to basically stay away from your fans, and we still voted you the most popular driver. It blows my
I don't
mind.
think anybody. I think that's one of them rigged elections, but anyway.
Yeah.
It is rigged. You can vote 5 times a day, every day.
Yeah.
So all of his friggin' fans are unemployed?
Yes.
They're the federal workers being fired right now. Why do you think Musk and Trump are like, hey, you can't respond to it now because I'm too busy all-star voting.
This is Trump's fault that Chase Elliott keeps
All
getting
right, let's get back on the rails
I
here.
get banned for being political. I'm sorry, folks.
Let's get on the rails.
It's just
Get back on the rails. Come on.
We're off the rails here. Sorry.
I don't understand. I don't know what angle NASCAR's trying to play with this. That makes
their countersuit doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Everything you brought up points everywhere but where Denny's taking everything he's doing. He hasn't. He's never shied away, other than the question that he beat around the bush this last week on what he basically, and I think a lot of that was just a play on and a jab at Chastain. I really think is why Denny took that approach.
Yeah,
but he's never been one to ultimately shy away from if he thinks something's wrong or he doesn't like it or he thinks this is the way it should be. He when it comes to fans, when it comes to NASCAR, when it comes to the cars, when it comes to the tracks, it doesn't matter what it is. He's been, as much as I don't like the guy, he's been there for the sport 100% since he got here.
Yep. I mean, if your argument, I don't know how they're going to justify this argument in court. If your argument in court is going to be, we don't believe they're here for the long-term gain. Why do you have two charters in escrow or whatever that we had to fight to get purchased that are in the total value, just those two charters between FRM, their additional charter for their third charter, and the charter for the 35 for the 2311 purchase, co-purchase, whatever. Well, the last charter sold before that was for $40 million. So if we assume that they're paying between 30 and 40, you're talking between 60 and 80 million dollars of investments. I don't know how that's not investing in the sport because those things are effing worthless if they go away. So why would it? Isn't that the ultimate? I'm trying to buy more charters. Yes, I don't agree with the charter agreement as it is, and I'd like some changes to it, but it's still good enough that I'm investing $60 million cumulatively between these two teams.
Yep.
On top of the ones I already own and field cars for to the tune of $1.2 million a season if I don't wreck any of those four per charter. And it's way more than that once you have spares and parts and all that stuff. Like, I just don't know what hill they're going to stand on. This is one of those like that can't be your real argument. That can't be you can't be serious because
Well,
you're
I
think
mean,
out
they're
of the room.
grasping at straws.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Chris.
I mean, grasping at what straws though? I'm
yeah.
sorry, but I really thought with the position that NASCAR put themselves in going into this, it already didn't look good for NASCAR.
Yep.
But now that's your argument, and you think somebody with the racing IQ, just the racing IQ alone, not to mention the attorney that they have that's representing them, coming from somebody that's done business for how long,
Mhm.
being Michael Jordan, that they're not going to pick that apart in court.
And the guy so to your point about the attorney, as a reminder, anybody who's not paying attention to the lawsuit, 2311 and FRM's attorney for antitrust is the attorney that won the antitrust lawsuit against the NCAA for name and likeness. It's why college
How big
football
is
is basically
NCAA?
NFL light now.
Yeah.
You've got the best, literally the best antitrust lawyer in the country has defeated the NCAA, won against the NBA. Like I don't know what they're thinking. Like the sooner you settle, this goes away. Like, all right, so you've had 4 weeks of officiating me in the headlines. Now you're in the headlines again, and now you're bringing up once again. You're the topic of conversation is also how you're in a legal battle with the most famous athlete in sports of all time, in
I,
Michael Jordan.
I had a thought earlier, and it's throwing a dart in the dark, really, but
Without feathers?
without feathers. Turn the lights off.
Is it named
Throw the
Chastain
dart.
or Hocevar?
Chastofasar.
Chestofazar.
Um,
All right, the Chestofazar dart. Go ahead.
so I just think that now that they're in this, they're obviously trying to do everything they can to win. They're not going to win, but I think with
Um,
Dodge looming, potentially another who knows another car manufacturer, OEM, they're trying to get their hands on as many charters as they can, so that they can go here. These are worth 40 million, but you can have it if you come in here. I think they're trying to steal these
yeah.
charters away. That's why they're trying so hard to grasp at anything they can find to
They
to
don't
knock
they don't
teams out.
they don't think four is going to be enough.
I mean, they got four
Four?
already.
They've got four
Yeah,
already.
I think that if other
It's two
teams
two
don't
car
want
teams, but yeah,
if the other teams don't
if
want
you get six
to
more,
change,
that's four teams. You could potentially two full scale and two light
But
teams.
but but this is the route you took. You didn't go after one of the teams that really doesn't have a leg to stand on. You're going against 2311.
not to
Is that
mention also front row isn't no slouch. They have a shit ton of money themselves.
So, so
well? But front row and 2311 are both represented by the same attorney right now. That's my point.
I know. I'm just saying
That's
that
where
they're
you
both
wanted to.
huge teams.
No, I know, but that's where you wanted to take that fight. You didn't take it to somebody that you could have basically pushed out, and we probably have been none the wiser.
yeah, if you'd pushed out let's say you pushed out a let's go back a couple years when we had Go Fast and MBM and Carl Long and some of these that nobody literally pays attention to other than Daytona 500, you wouldn't have noticed if they disappeared off the grid at all.
What's the
You're not going
78
after
team?
those kind of people. You're going after essentially, well, you got your regular season champion in Tyler Reddick last year, championship four qualifier, Bubba, the most highly and he's made some missteps in the social side of things, but either way, definitely the most successful minority race car driver this sport has seen for this sport, which is good overall. And then you've got by far the biggest name brand and minority owner or co-owner in Michael Jordan. And then you got a guy who's got more money than God and Jerry Freeze, who owns all these fast food restaurants all over the country, who okay, if he lost the $100 million in this, he'd be pissed, but he's not going to be broke. Mike, like we joked, Michael Jordan could just release another shoe and pay for his lawyer costs for this thing. And maybe he will.
Yeah, he just did that campaign about what happened back in the 80s with the
With the unbannable.
Unbannable.
That was
unbannable.
awesome.
I mean,
I would love to
how
see
much
him
money
have a
did he
car
make
that
off
says
this bat?
uncharterable.
Uncharterable. Yeah, that'd be badass.
Welcome to the 45 Uncharted. And it was just like a big like NASCAR with a black tape through it.
I'm just starting to think with the way NASCAR is going on this whole lawsuit thing that I mean, are they getting counsel from Brian again?
I think Brian, truthfully, I think Brian could do a better job than what Jim France is doing right now. But that's a different.
I really don't think it's Jim making these decisions either,
No,
unfortunately.
no, I don't think so either. I do think there's something to what you're saying though, Blake, in that you've got a new. I don't think they're deliberately trying to steal the charters, but you're trying to court new partners. You only have four on the table, and the rest of them have to go partner with. So it would be financially lucrative for you if you could free
Well,
up some and still get these guys to race as an open car. But the bigger point is so this is where I wanted to go with this, just as a different discussion. So Mitch, one of our buddies, used to be, we used to talk a lot more. He has argued with me, uh, heads and tail up, all over that the NASCAR fan base overall wouldn't care if Michael Jordan left the sport. That it's not as big a deal as I think it is. So,
Is this a Mitch I know?
no, this
yes,
is you probably do, Mitch Harris.
Yes.
yes.
So this is his opinion, and
Name
everybody's
drop.
got their opinion. He doesn't seem
Name
to
drop.
think that Michael Jordan moves the needle like I seem to think it does. I would beg to differ. I think
Yeah,
and the reason why I say that is let's look at the number of sponsors that 2311 has. They have zero empty inventory. They have Monster, who was hesitant to sponsor certain things, sponsors their car, sponsors Ty Gibbs' car, and was a co-sponsor for and was sponsoring also for Kurt Busch when he was in there. But now they're with Reddick and they're on two cars for
Mhm.
2311. So they make up 50% of their income. And then on top
yeah.
of it, they've managed to pull Mobile One from SHR. They managed to pull who was the other one? I'm trying to remember.
Which car is it on? I can help you.
They pulled Money Lion because that was, I believe,
Well, Moneyline left,
Money
but yeah,
Lion for a little bit with either RFK or Penske, or was that
Moneyline was with Penske,
yes, it was
Penske.
Penske.
but
Okay, so they sold
they're
that
no
sponsor.
longer with 2311.
But
They
either
left.
way, you got Money Lion, you got all these sponsors partnering with them. Well, they're not partnering with them because of Denny Hamlin. They're partnering with them because of the association of minority driver, fine, whether you like that or not. But that new fan base, minority owner, Michael Jordan, they want to be attached to that success there. Because
Columbia Sportswear.
yep, Columbia Sportswear, Root Insurance, DoorDash, like they've got partners that have never entered the sport before, and they activate. They activate it. They do special stuff around it.
And I would even
So I don't know
argue
how
with
you.
Mitch.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would even argue with Mitch on that fact because just the races that I've been to since Denny and and Michael have hooked up, the amount of fans. And I mean, I spend when I go, I spend the money. I love to be in the garage area, and just the fans standing around that can't even get in the garage area, but line every barricade, waiting to see if Jordan walks through the garage.
Yep.
That
And
I mean, you hear it out of everybody's mouth. Has anybody seen Michael today? They're not even asking about drivers. They want to know if Michael Jordan's at the racetrack.
yep, they want to know if Michael Jordan's there. And all the drivers know that Michael Jordan knows their name. From the lowest guy in the truck series
Yep.
to the best guy in the cup series. He loves this sport. He is invested. he's following, he's talking to him like, hey man, heads up, whether it was Harvick in his final year or some of the truck drivers have mentioned it, like Zane Smith and those guys when they were down there, like just having him come up and be like, that was awesome. Like he knows my name is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
And so I just disagree, and this isn't to bag on him, but to the point about the lawsuit, to say that if NASCAR wins won't be detrimental to the sport if Michael Jordan and them were to reduce scale or pack up shop under the we're not invested enough would be a major blow to NASCAR.
Oh, absolutely.
Brad Doherty was a good basketball player and is an active owner and everything, but Brad Doherty's name does not carry what Michael Jordan's name carries, and that's just the reality of it, period.
Yep.
So Michael Jordan's not the first black owner, and Doherty isn't either for that fact. You've got Wendell Scott, but Doherty is the more prominent in today's time in terms of duration. But Michael Jordan's the one that when you say his name, when you put him at a track,
everybody turns around and looks.
That he drives the numbers,
Yeah, look how much attention they got when he was carrying around Bo Reddick.
Yeah, exactly.
When they won Talladega. I mean, they couldn't shut up. They talked about that for a month.
His excitement when they qualified for the Final Four and that race at Miami, he's like, the little man did it. Yeah, that was a big moment for NASCAR. So for them to say that these guys aren't invested, that these guys aren't, trying to contribute to the, damn it, Kitty. Just tried to knock over my
I saw that coming a long way.
Yep. Yeah.
For those listening to the audio version, Alan's cat
listen to the audio version. My cat just decided she wanted to knock my water glass over, so whatever. But she's gonna
I saw that coming when she first got up there.
Hey, something I want to bring up to you guys is something to think about. I don't know how much we can get into discussing because I'm gonna have to bail here.
Yep.
But
I only got one thing left, so yeah.
New manufacturer coming in the sport.
Okay.
With what Dodge has said in the past, and Dodge coming back in, do you think with them making the comments they've made in the past, the reason why they stayed out of the sport, why the reason they've stayed out of the sport for a while, and the excuse they gave of we really don't have a draw to come back because our street cars are running more horsepower? What do you think? Do you think that'll take a turn? Do you think that'll affect anything on what we're seeing and the push that everybody's been saying we need to go back to more horsepower? Do you think that's something we may see?
I hope so.
No, I don't.
I don't think it will, but I would hope.
Okay, sorry, Alan, and not Blake. We don't care what Blake has to say. Alan, what's your take on it?
I hope that by drawing in another manufacturer to the table, and Dodge being they're a muscle car brand, period. They're a muscle truck brand. Their Ram, the Hemi brand, the Hemi legacy evokes power, the Superbird, those kind of things. So I'm hoping that if they do actually come back to the sport like they say they are, first with the trucks and then with the Cup, that will get them to bring in, even if it's 200 more horsepower, we get back up into the 700 range, that would be wonderful. I would still love it to be more. I don't think we're ever going to get back to the days we had at Charlotte when they're coming
850 to 1,000,
850 to 900 plus, and you hear that engine just screaming coming around for that qualifying lap at the All-Star where they're going to come down pit road at like 194 mile an hour coming off a four.
Sideways,
scorching the tires. Like there will never be a more badass show of power for the last generation of car era than that. Seeing those guys qualify for the All-Star like that. But yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm not. I think it's possible. I don't know how probable it is to lay it out that way. I think it's possible Dodge gets them to move that needle. I don't know how probable that is, though.
Can I tell you my opinion, Chris, or you got to go?
Fire away.
Go ahead.
Fire away. Nobody cares what your opinion is.
I know. I
was hoping you'd fall asleep and be taking a nap by the time we got to this point, but
no, that's Alan.
That was my job yesterday.
No, that was last night.
Hey, look, by taking a nap yesterday, we got all these additional things. We got an extra lawsuit, some penalties, some other penalties. Like we got some good stuff today by taking a nap. See, naps are good.
So my opinion on Dodge is they've actually, which I'm shocked, but they actually went towards electrification more than Chevy, more than Ford. They
Yeah.
and so this new car is set up to potentially go that route at
It
some
was built
point.
with a hybrid capability in mind, I think.
So with that being said, that might be why Dodge is coming back because of that potential.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to go ahead and stop you right there. I don't want to hear your opinion anymore.
I'm sorry if my logic isn't good enough for you,
I
WS.
personally don't think that's going to fare well for them. I don't know of anybody.
If that's the approach they
It's the
take, I
same
think
thing
that's going to
as
go
like
bad.
it's the same thing to me as I equate it to the when I learned to ride a motorcycle, I went over to the Harley Davidson dealer, and they had that's because that's who taught the courses for road safety one, two, the police course and everything like that. They had chargers out front for their live wire Harley Davidsons. They didn't have a single one in the store because nobody would buy them. And I think that's going to be the case with Dodge's electrified supercars, their Demons, their Challengers, all that. I don't think they're going to be in very high demand because at the end of the day, a genuine, true muscle car enthusiast wants to hear that roar. They want to feel it in their bones. It's probably got an 86 El Camino SS out front instead of a, electric car that gulps gas by the gallon. And I don't give two shits because when I turn it on, it goes boom. There's nothing like hearing that bored out 305 small block V8 with a four barrel on it. Like that's what real car enthusiasts want to hear. They don't want to hear audio played back over the speakers to make it sound like you have it. But and and to that point, I want to see how many of your Tesla hugging hippies, and there's a lot of them. And I got friends that have it. Electric cars are awesome. I
Yeah,
don't know of any
TJ. Let's
green
see what
tree
TJ
nerds that
Majors
are going
has
to
to say about
buy.
this.
I don't know of any green tree nerds that are going to go buy
You
a
like to be
Dodge.
locked out of your car for 3 days?
So yeah, I don't see I don't know where their market, what they're thinking. Like we'll take one of our other buddies, Bill Scotta. He's got that beautiful purple Hellcat. You think Bill would ever buy a purple Hellcat electrified version of that car?
Not
No
one
chance in
damn
hell. They would
chance.
have to run out of gasoline on the planet before he would buy that car.
And
He's
he'd
still
still
probably
go,
he'd
nope,
walk. He'd walk.
I'll turn this thing into water.
He would probably turn it into something could run on like corn oil before he would get to an
Yep,
electric version. Like it'd be run on biodiesel. But
yep.
that's my point. Like real muscle car guys don't want an electric muscle car. And you
No.
know that by looking at the Mustang. You've got the Mustang, and then you got the Mustang Mach-E. The Mach-E is a SUV, it's a mom mobile. It's not a Mustang. The Mustang still has a true V8 in it. Still comes in a Cobra, all the Roush tiers and everything. They still made the Camaro up until this past year and the ZL1. There's not a hybrid Camaro. There's not an electric Camaro. That's because that market doesn't want that. So I don't know what Dodge is thinking with that, but if that's the car they want to bring, I don't think NASCAR fans want it either. Again, when you go to the Bristol last year, you and I remember going there as a kid when they had those cars and they were in the 800, 900 range. 43 of those cars would start, and you're talking 43,000 horsepower shaking the earth in the stands. You can't get that if you bring 43 electric cars in there. You lose part of that atmosphere. And okay, you give them all a bunch of speakers, make them go vroom, vroom. It's not going to be the same thing.
Yep.
I can only imagine if you started all of those cars up in Bristol and they're electric cars, it'd probably sound like a friggin' dog whistle.
I just imagine like a
Well,
bunch of,
That,
sound like a bunch of bumblebees.
yeah.
but I got to bail though, guys.
Well, we're pretty much done. So I appreciate it. Like that was all the big topics I wanted to cover. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't see it.
I just was curious about that one. It's one that's been on my mind for a while with hearing that Dodge was coming back. So
I'm hoping if anything, if they're interested, it means they're gonna maybe change their stance like some of the other car manufacturers and back away from the EV push a little bit because main car purchasers are not willing to invest as everybody thought it was if it's not going to be subsidized by the government. Like we're not there yet.
yeah.
So we'll let you get back to work. Appreciate it, buddy.
All right, guys. Thank you. It was fun.
Yep. Oh, so hold on. Who you think is going to win this weekend? You want to stand by your pick? I believe you and I both picked Blaney. Let me look. Um, No, you said Blaney for Phoenix 2. I'm looking for your Phoenix 1. Who did you go with?
Bell, I think.
That looks right. Let me get there. Bell.
I don't have my book. It's at the house. So,
Nashville, Richmond.
and I didn't think to look before I left this morning.
No, you had Logano winning Phoenix 1. I had
Oh
Blaney,
yeah,
you had
yeah.
Logano. So you want to stick with that, or you think because we're bringing a softer tire, so you want to stand with
Well,
that? We
and
didn't know that going in.
for
It's
me
the
that really doesn't
Wilkesboro
change anything.
tire.
Yeah, and so who won Wilkesboro on the last time?
That's why I said it to you.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Knowing that it's a softer tire
It's
isn't
also the same tire they ran in Richmond.
that's almost just gonna solidify my pick if in looking at it that way.
Whose side are you on,
Just
Blake? Shut up.
Well, just
well,
trying to help.
and I'm not even looking at it from the aspect of what Blake's bringing up. Just
No, I know.
Joey Logano is one of those drivers. He's one that even though he's younger driver, he is one that knows how to save his equipment. He
Yeah.
knows how to manage tires, knows how to save equipment, and yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't change anything there.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I mean, going in, I thought it would be a Penske car. You did too. My only thing that I think might change that, from Blaney versus Logano has more reps on the older tires and older equipment, like a Hamlin, a Brad Keselowski, and we saw what happened with the super soft tires at Bristol. If anything like that happens at Phoenix, I think that's going to put Logano a leg up over his two teammates because he's got more of that experience.
Yep.
Last year they both had equally fast cars. I mean, I still think it's going to be a Penske car. Blake, I believe you said you think it's going to be Mr. Briscoe, especially now that he's point penalty free.
Yeah, they're going to be riding in cloud nine. They're going to be.
Well, you said he was going to win the first one, so we both had Penske and you had him. We're entering those next 6 races are all the more traditional tracks. So, yeah, we'll see what happens, but I think
who won last week? I remember who I had.
You did.
Bell won the race. You were the closest.
I had Reddick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you had this.
You had Reddick, and he
under a
finished
mile.
3rd. McDowell is who I had. He led for about 5 laps due to what strategy or whatever, and then he got bulldozed. So I was a little disappointed with that. He kind of let me down.
Bowman cut corners, got spun out a couple
Yep.
times. He finished way back.
He Hendrick that shit. I mean, him, Larson,
He
they all
Larson
they all
the
got
shit out of
screwed.
it.
They all got screwed one way or another. So, but
They look like a football F and a monkey out there.
yeah,
Yeah.
we will. We'll let you go, Chris. But
A football F and a monkey.
yeah,
That was Allen's line last week.
I got a patch for it somewhere around here. It's a little orange patch with a monkey. Fucking a football. It was one of my last military patches. It's one of my favorite. But yeah.
Go deliver our packages.
You're the one that just said a football fucking a monkey, though.
He said that last week. Go back and listen.
All right, guys.
All right. Talk with y'all later.
Later.
All right. Anything else we want to cover, Blake? I think we got it all. I don't think I missed anything looking at it. We covered the COTA contract. We covered the lawsuit. We covered penalties. What we think is going to happen. The only thing I'll say, to the softer tire for this weekend, they did say if it's better, they'll bring it back for the championship. Based on what we saw at Martinsville and Bristol and Richmond, I'm really hopeful. I think we're going to get it might be the first time, we've been echoing they need to move the Phoenix race, and last year's Phoenix race was really good in the fall, not the spring, but the fall.
It was only good because there's Ryan Blaney was running down Logano. Otherwise, it was
No, I agree. The strategy is what made it good, but the racing overall throughout the 4 was pretty good. But what I was going to say is, do you think the softer tire will save this race from the chopping block? Because NASCAR's already said they're looking at moving the championship race around. Phoenix has been given this race date because of the activation.
I don't think it's going to move them off of the chopping block per se. I think they're still going to have 2 races going forward because they sell out.
No, I mean the move them off the chopping block is the championship race. If this really improves the racing, do you think it extends the championship contract for them?
No, I think they'll go back to Homestead. I think what they're going to end up doing is they're going to find three tracks, and it's going to be Homestead, Phoenix, and something else that NASCAR owns because we can't, finish a race at a semi
SMI owns
track.
Vegas, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it won't be Vegas, even though Vegas would be a perfect championship finale race.
Yep.
Um,
So probably maybe Darlington, but I don't know.
that'd be awesome.
To,
But
to do that, you would have to do the Southern 500. That's the only problem. You can't.
yeah, yeah, you lose to get the championship race there. You have to give up a couple years of tradition. However, I feel like when they brought it
I'd
back,
be okay with it if it was
throwback.
doing it like once every 3 years. You moved it off Labor Day just because to make it a championship race. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, me too. I'd be good with that too.
Yeah. But
So,
my thing is my problem with this tire we're bringing. You mean to tell me we saw that it works last year at
mhm,
Wilkesboro? Well, it didn't really work there because it was fresh pavement, but we saw that the potential capability. We saw what it actually did do at Richmond.
mhm.
We saw what a different variant would do at Martinsville.
Yep, even
You're
softer.
telling me we couldn't take any more time to soften it up even more? This is the same tire that we run at Wilkesboro and Richmond. We're not bringing something different. Why are we not bringing? Are we not bringing the Martinsville tire?
Okay,
That's
that's a
my
good
problem
point.
with it. Why are we not keep building off of it? Why are we stuck
Well, I think
at
they're
something
bringing
that
the
was almost a
Richmond
year old?
compound because of the banking and the speed compared to Martinsville, would be my guess. Richmond's
Well,
going to have a higher
the
load.
thing is, the Martinsville tire did fall off. The Martinsville tire did degrade,
Oh
but
yeah,
we never saw one blow out.
no,
So so why not try it?
I agree. If we were going to bring two tires for options, I would bring Richmond's, which we know works, and I'd bring Martinsville as the option.
Make
The
Martinsville, yeah, make
primary would be
Richmond
Richmond.
the prime and
Yep,
make Martinsville the option.
yep,
That's the only
exactly.
problem I have. Make it
Agreed.
soft and even softer.
Yep, 100%. We're on the same page. That's what I would do.
Just you want to keep building. You want to keep building and keep going as far as you can. And if you start having blowouts, okay, you need to back up a little bit. But you can't. The Wilkesboro is 2 months away. That's almost a year on the same compound.
Mhm.
You
Yep.
got to keep building off that. NASCAR has put Goodyear under an impossible,
Yeah.
deal with the lack of horsepower is what's created all of this.
Yeah, the lack of
And
horsepower
Goodyear,
combined with that underbody make
Mhm.
it to where you have very little change you can impact with the car. Well, there's three points on the car. The underbody,
drag, little downforce, no horsepower.
well, I was gonna say, so the first box they put him in was deciding to go with these road racing style brakes, which that big brake package included a big road racing wheel. So you have very little rubber to work with to start with. So you can only soften it up so much because you can't afford to run an inner liner. So how do I balance that? That's problem number one. Number two, there's not enough horsepower to spin the tires a lot of the time. So it's very hard to wear it out. And then the last one, like you said, the drag slash downforce with the body design, either the underbody or the overbody, produces so much pressure on that smaller patch, that smaller sidewall, wider patch, but the smaller sidewall is really the problem. It's not the width, it's the height, where the pressure just forces them to blow the bead, essentially. Um, that, yeah, they've kind of painted themselves in this box and don't really know how to get out of it because I agree, you can only go so much softer before you're going to have to make some very expensive fundamental changes to the car where you could keep the downforce and stuff like that, but you've got to make major mechanical changes in the 4 points that touch the track, which is where the wheels and brakes and all that are, and the geometry and suspension, because you're gonna have to shrink it all to go back to that steel 15-inch wheel, as opposed to the 820 something inch wheels they got today that are
Yep.
huge.
Like Martinsville is what, a month away, month and a half, something like that.
Yeah,
If we don't go to Martinsville with a softer tire than we did in the fall, then what are we doing?
no, I
That
agree.
worked. Keep keep soft that sucker up. Make
Yeah.
them have to drive the damn cars.
Yeah.
Not to mention, the cars look badass at the end of the race because they're black all over them. But yeah, that's all I got for
Okay.
this
Yeah, I
weekend.
just was curious, like, what do you
I
think
do have
about
something to
how
talk
that
to you
tire
about
will
after you
impact
go off.
overall weekend? I like the shirt. That's a nice new Larson shirt you got there. I like that one a
Yep,
lot. That's a good looking shirt.
yep.
Did you get that from the
Surprised
store
nobody.
or off NASCAR.com?
ShopKyleLarson.com.
Nice. Okay. I've been getting tons of my on the diecast front. I've been getting a bunch of my Chastain cars. So over here I've got a stack of Chastain rides to pack up. That's one, two, three, four, like seven more Chastain cars than I thought I'd ever have in my collection. So
Oh, and on display this week, since I think we've been doing this last couple weeks,
yeah,
but
yep.
on
Let's
display
pick
this
a
week
car
is
and show
the
it off.
2021 Freightliner Autographed Elite that Larson wrecked at Bristol 20 times.
I was gonna say I'm gonna see if I can grab it. I just boxed them up before I put them away. If it's in here. Yep. Okay. So that's a good one. Um, I got my, even though we both loathe the luckiness that is William Byron's, horseshoe that's
Oh,
up.
but he's not lucky. Ask Kevin
Oh, yeah, he's just the
and
world's
Pop.
best. So I got this William Byron liquid color flames, which is hard to see the liquid color
Is
in
that
like
this
this.
year's car?
Yeah, this is this year's car they just won the Daytona 500 with. It's really good looking. It's a different kind of flames than anything he's had before. So that's
Yeah.
nice that they actually changed them up. They're not Jeff Gordon's flames. They're truly Byron's
Now,
own
didn't
flames.
didn't that guy on Twitter design that?
Yes, Noah Sweet, I think,
No, sweet.
Lefty
Yep.
or whatever
Yep.
his
Yep.
name is. I think
No,
he's the
sweet.
one that did it, and
Yep.
it came out really good. The camera is not really showing like the beauty and the depth of the color, but
I
it's
can
really
see the
good.
depth on the right above the fender when you kind of tilt it.
Yeah,
Yeah, right there
you
you
can
can see
kind of
it.
see it there and the depth and the color, but it's a good looking car. I will say, even though we bag on him for how lucky it is, he is. I'm really happy with this one that came out uh better than anticipated. I almost think, they dropped the red. I feel like they should have dropped the blue. Even though the blue is not the primary color, I just
Yeah,
think
he said it's only about 20% of the car.
well, it makes up a lot of the bottom and the back, but not the hood and the honestly, the blue is probably 50-50 split because the red has the yellow gradient and they didn't do anything to the yellow gradient. So you probably could have done either one. Um, with the red
Oh
being
no, I think there's a shit ton more red.
it probably is. Just depends on where you're looking at on the car, but it's a really good looking car.
Yep.
So, and then I don't know if you noticed in some of your new ones you're getting yet, if you've gotten any, but they made a change to the clamshell. They've changed the shape of it just a little bit. Um, so it's got like an area in the back now where you can grab it. Before it was like on top, so now there's like a thumb grab here.
Okay.
So I like
I
that. So
I
you can
haven't
pick it
got
up.
any for 25 yet.
So these are the first two I've gotten from 2025 was these two that came in the other day. Um, so they now have a dual directional arrow, but I like the thumb grab, so
Yeah, I would
you're
like
not
that
less
too.
likely to drop it, which is nice.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, that was a nice little highlight there over what I had come in, along with some of the other Chastain ones and whatnot. So let's see. I'm
My
really looking
next
forward
car
to
to
the
come in
Valvoline ones
should
when
be
they come.
Kansas.
Hmm?
My next one that should come in is Kansas. Closest finish in NASCAR history.
Yeah. Did you? No, I was thinking that was the Atlanta. Never mind. I was thinking about the special they did for that they just recently aired on Fox. How that all came together for Atlanta last year with the three wide between
Oh, yeah, I didn't
Danny
watch it.
Suarez and Kyle Busch. But all right. Well, that's all I got. We don't need to
Yep.
keep on dragging it out. Just
I do have something to talk to you about off air.
yep. So that's our show, folks. Again, appreciate your likes, listens, comments. If you want to join us, by all means, message me or Blake and tag us in the feedback of the pod. Or if you want to find us on, Facebook Messenger or in on the Lionel Forum, wherever, just reach out. We'd love to have you on, hear your perspective, see what you think. Any fans are welcome. Have
Absolutely.
have a good week, guys, and we'll see what Phoenix brings with this new tire.
See you after Arizona.